Hello and welcome back to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Sprocket, West Kentucky, and KY Innovation. We are so happy to have you back for 10 at 10. This is episode 238 as an even number episode, as we always do. We're looking at some of the news of the last few days and weeks and see what little nuggets are in there that we can learn from, that we can take and apply and in an effort to keep our families, our organizations, our companies, and ourselves a little bit safer in cyberspace. So with that, let me just dig into it and we'll get right into it. Probably something that we'll spend the whole week on, or the whole episode on next week, is each year IBM comes out with a study, and they talk about the average cost of a data breach. And that's something that has been really interesting to look at over the years and see the trends. They've been doing it for, I want to say 20 years, more than 20 years. And it's something that we've talked about on here before, but a couple of things I want to point out from a highlight standpoint, and then we'll dig into it in more detail next week. But first of all, the overall globally, the cost of a data breach went down. However, in America, it went up from the average cost. And this is looking at very large companies and very small companies and everything in between. So the numbers are usually higher than a small business would see. But the point of it is the percentage growth for me. But it went from 9.3 million per data breach in 2024 to 10.2 million. So, not quite, but about 10%. Higher cost of a data breach this year than last year. So why is that? Is that because things are costing more? Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Is it because there are more things to consider? Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Is it because of the type of data breaches that are happening? Yeah, I'm sure that's the case as well. It talked about some of the links and the cost, and this is important because we're going to talk about some healthcare things in a minute. About a third of the organizations had to pay regulatory fines because of the breaches, and in the U.S., those fines were the highest. About half of the fines were more than $100,000. So not only do we need to keep our organization safe because it's the right thing to do, the regulatory frameworks that we agree to by doing business in different industries say that we're supposed to do it. So if we're not doing those things that we say that we're supposed to do, then we're going to be susceptible to fines, as we should be, frankly. All right. So the next one that I want to talk about, and I find this interesting as well. This is more, everybody ask me, what does AI matter? What do I need to be doing about AI? And there's a lot of really cool things that we should be doing, and I want you to be doing with AI. But I saw this, and I thought it was interesting. There are people that have been able to use the OpenAI ChatGPT agent. So the agent's a little bit different than, if you're going to the website. The agent will allow you to do multiple steps on something, and a little more powerful than just using the prompt on a website, but same concept. It is able to bypass a CAPTCHA. It is able to skip through the CAPTCHA part. What's the CAPTCHA? If you go to a website and you have to click a button that says "I am not a robot," the robot can beat it. is essentially what I'm saying. What does that mean? It doesn't mean necessarily anything on the surface, but what it means are those little things that we have added in different ways to make sure that we're staying safe, that I don't want a bot to scrape my data. Well, we put the little CAPTCHA in to make sure that that doesn't happen. Well, that little robot is able to bypass that little CAPTCHA. And so a lot of those things that we have done over time, we're going to have to rethink because it's not as effective as maybe as we thought it was. So what are we going to need to do to make that more effective? And that's something that is going to be an ongoing thing that we really need to consider going forward. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and I wanted to throw that in there from Ars Technica. Next couple stories are going to focus on healthcare, and I really think, first of all, healthcare is in a world of hurt. They're in a world of hurt for a lot of reasons. They have become a massive target, and I think a lot of industry experts don't see that changing anytime soon. So I think they are a target, and they're going to continue to be a target, and maybe they're going to increase how much they're targeted. So I think all of those are challenges to keep in mind. But this survey I thought was really interesting. 73% of rural leaders admit they struggle to maintain HIPAA compliance due to a lack of staff and funding. So I know that across Kentucky, there's a lot of worry from rural hospitals that are already struggling to think in a year or two or three, are they going to be able to keep their doors open because of some of the changes in funding coming down the pipe from the feds? That's certainly a worry. But if we're a hospital, if we're a healthcare organization, we have requirements that we have to maintain. And 73% say they struggle to maintain HIPAA compliance. If you have a data breach and you're not HIPAA compliant, you better believe you're going to get fined. So what I talked about in that first story is going to be just exacerbated when you have an incident and you're not compliant. 4 out of 5 rural leaders say their infrastructure can't support advanced email security. That's a problem. 50% say budget limitations are a top barrier to upgrading security tools, nearly double the rate of the urban hospitals. 22% of rural hospitals trail urban hospitals by 22% in adopting AI-based threat detection tools. All of these things say the rural areas are really struggling to keep up in security. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, that means, and I'm going to skip around a little bit, we end up with stories like this. This is Cumberland, and I'm sharing this story because this is a Kentucky hospital that had a data breach. It was reported on June 2nd. It occurred on April 3rd, between February 21st and April 3rd, and 36,659 individuals were affected. This was in a rural county in Kentucky. Rural hospitals are going to be targets. Rural hospitals are going to be targets because we know that rural hospitals can't maintain that. So do the bad guys. So they know that there's an opportunity to get some money out of an attack on a rural hospital with ransomware. Ransomware attacks on hospitals are up. Not as much as some other sectors, but they're up. And they have been a target, and they will continue to be a target. And it's something that we have to worry about. All right. My last story is, and I think this is really interesting, is that cybersecurity challenges in healthcare include legal, regulatory, and risk considerations. And really what this talks about to me is that this article talks a little bit about some of those challenges, but what it is saying is that your legal, regulatory, and risk considerations should start your security planning, or should be included with your security planning from the start. So when you're thinking about what you need to be doing, legal, regulatory, and risk should always be included in that thought process. That will help you down the road. Nobody really wants to think about regulatory or risk. Legal, definitely not. But we got to make sure we're doing the minimum that we are required to do by law, by regulatory compliance, and it's going to help risk. We don't install security software in our email or email filtering because we want to. We do it because it helps reduce risk. It helps to comply with our regulatory requirements. It helps to comply with laws that we have. That's why we do these things. So we've got to make sure that we're following those frameworks, that we're doing the things that we need to do. So start early with all of those pieces. All right, I've gone just a hair over today, but thank you for your time. I hope you found this interesting. You can find more on the stories below. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next week back here on 10 at 10. Thank you. Bye.